Welcome back, everybody. Settle in, grab a snack, and let's dive into a story that's going to pull you right into the pulsing heart of New York City, where love can lift you to the stars or drag you through the mud. This is a tale about Lucas Turner, a tech titan with a heart locked tighter than a Wall Street vault, and Jane Dawson, a woman who'd risk it all for a chance at his love, even if it meant stepping into a darkness she couldn't escape. It's a story woven with desperation, regret, and the kind of choices that linger like a fog over the Hudson. So let's jump in and lose ourselves in it. 7 years ago, Manhattan was alive with ambition, and Lucas Turner was the name on everyone's lips. At 28, he was the genius behind Turner Tech, a company that was rewriting the rules with AI apps so smart they could predict your next coffee order. Imagine him striding through his sleek midtown office glass walls, reflecting the glittering skyline, a tailored suit hugging his frame, and a confidence that turned heads at every turn. Lucas had it all: a penthouse on the Upper East Side with a view that screamed wealth, a private jet waiting at Teterboro for his next big deal, and a reputation as the guy who never lost, except maybe when it came to love. Back at NYU, Lucas had been head over heels for Heather Summers, an art major, with a laugh that could turn a crowded lecture hall into a warm haven. They were the couple you'd spot at a village cafe, sharing a croissant, their hands brushing, as they planned a future that felt infinite. But senior year, Heather dropped a bomb. She said she needed space to find herself and took off for Paris, leaving Lucas with a heart that felt like it had been run over by a yellow cab. He buried that pain deep, channeling it into Turner Tech, building an empire brick by brick, swearing he'd never let anyone close enough to hurt him again. Little did he know, Heather's shadow and her twin sister would pull him back into a storm he couldn't avoid. Now let's meet Jane Dawson. She wasn't just another cog in the corporate machine. At 27, Jane was a marketing whiz at Dawson Enterprises, a family-run firm scrapping to keep pace with Turner Tech's dominance. She was sharp, with a mind that could outmaneuver a chess grandmaster, and ambitious enough to have her 5-year plan framed on the wall of her trendy Brooklyn loft. But beneath that polished exterior, Jane was a mess over Lucas. She'd known him since their college days, always hovering on the edges of his world, her pulse racing every time he flashed that half-smile at someone else, usually Heather. Jane wasn't the type to spill her feelings in a diary. She was strategic, plotting her moves like a general on a battlefield. She'd catch glimpses of him at tech expos, always with a new date on his arm, and it was like a slow bleed she couldn't stop. By 2018, Jane was done being invisible. She wanted Lucas, and she was ready to play a game that would change everything, whether it was right or wrong. Here's where the story takes a turn into the shadows. Heather had a twin sister, Hannah Summers, who was battling a rare blood disorder that turned her life into a ticking clock. Hannah needed a transfusion, and quick, but her blood type AB negative, the rarest of the rare, was like hunting for a unicorn in Times Square. By some cruel twist of fate, Jane was a match. She'd discovered this years ago at a company blood drive, a little detail she tucked away like a secret weapon. When Hannah's condition hit critical, Jane saw her shot. She tracked down Lucas, who was pacing the halls of Mount Sinai Hospital, desperation etched into his face as he tried to save Hannah. Jane laid it out cold. She'd donate the blood, but only if Lucas married her. No ring, no transfusion. Lucas was floored. He pleaded, his voice cracking, as he begged for Hannah's life. But Jane held firm, her heart a tangle of love and desperation. She thought this was her golden ticket to his heart, her chance to rewrite their story. Lucas, with no other options and time slipping away, signed a contract, a legal shackle that bound them in marriage, but promised nothing beyond 3 monthly meetings to keep up appearances. Jane thought she'd won, but the victory was a mirage. The hospital fumbled the transfusion schedule, and Hannah slipped away. Lucas blamed Jane, convinced her delay had killed his friend's sister. The truth that it was a hospital error didn't matter to him. To Lucas, Jane was the villain, and their marriage became a cold war of resentment. Fast forward to 2025, and that marriage is a battlefield where neither side takes prisoners. Lucas is colder than a January night on the Brooklyn Bridge, treating Jane like a ghost he's forced to acknowledge. They live separate lives, Lucas reigning from his penthouse, a fortress of glass and steel, while Jane retreats to her loft in Dumbo, a space filled with half-finished projects and unspoken regrets. Anne's still running marketing at Dawson Enterprises, pouring her soul into campaigns to drown out the silence at home. She's tried to make amends, slipping Lucas anonymous tips to land lucrative Turner Tech deals, hoping he'll see the woman behind the mistake. But Lucas, he's a wall of ice. Their contractual dates are torture-stilted dinners at places like Per Se, where the food goes untouched, or charity galas where Lucas plays the charming host, but avoids Jane's gaze like she's a bad memory. Jane's guilt is a shadow that never lifts. She knows what she did was wrong, manipulating a life for love, but she's trapped, still clinging to the faint hope that Lucas might one day see her as more than a contract. The city's buzzing with their story. At rooftop bars in Chelsea, where the skyline sparkles like a promise, and power lunches in Fiddy, where deals are sealed with a handshake. People whisper about the Dawson deal, how Jane snared Lucas in a loveless trap. Jane hears it all, the words cutting deeper than a subway screech, but she keeps her chin up, her heels clicking through boardrooms like she's invincible. Lucas, though, is a phantom in her life, showing up only when the contract demands it. Their meetings are a masterclass in pain, Jane, trying to spark a real talk. Lucas shutting her down with a look that could freeze the East River. "You got what you wanted, Jane?" he'll say, his tone sharp enough to slice through steel. Isn't that enough? It's never enough. Jane's spent 7 years chasing a man who despises her, and it's wearing her down, chipping away at the woman she used to be. Then, like a thunderclap over the city, Heather Summers storms back into New York. She's been living the high life in Paris, painting canvases and sipping wine in Montmartre, but now she's back all elegance and a glint in her eye that screams trouble. Heather's heard about Lucas and Jane's marriage, and she's not here to sip cocktails and reminisce. She starts showing up at the same events as Lucas, dropping coy hints about their college days, stirring up old embers. Jane catches wind of it at a tech summit in Soho, where Heather's holding court with a glass of rosé, laughing about the good old days with Lucas, while investors hang on her every word. Jane's stomach twists. She knows Heather's a threat, but she doesn't yet see the full scope of what's coming. Heather's not just here for nostalgia. She's got a vendetta, and Jane's the target she's been aiming for. The tension boils over at a glitzy gala at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the kind of event where the city's elite sip champagne under chandeliers. Jane's there in a stunning emerald gown, the fabric catching the light like a beacon, hoping against all odds to catch Lucas's eye and maybe spark something real. Lucas is across the room, charming a circle of investors with that effortless grin, when Heather sweeps in all confidence and red lipstick. She leans in close, whispering something that makes Lucas laugh, a sound Jane hasn't heard since their college days. The room feels like it's closing in the air, thick with perfume and judgment. Jane takes a deep breath and approaches, her heart pounding, but Lucas brushes her off, his voice low and cutting. "Don't make a scene, Jane. You're embarrassing yourself." The words hit like a slap across the face. Jane stands there frozen, as the crowd's whispers grow louder, calling her desperate, a schemer, a fraud. Heather's smirk from across the room is the final dagger. Jane's spent 7 years trying to make this marriage work, pouring her heart into a man who sees her as a mistake, and in that moment, she sees it for what it is, a losing battle. As Jane slips out of the gala, the city lights blurring through her tears, she's hit with a brutal truth. She can't keep living like this, chained to a marriage that's more punishment than partnership. The cold night air stings her cheeks as she walks toward the subway. Her mind racing. Walking away means facing what she did to Hannah, to Lucas, to the woman she's become. She remembers the hospital room, the sterile smell, the way Lucas's eyes darkened when he realized Hannah was gone. Jane's not sure she's strong enough to carry that guilt and start over, but something's gotta give. Meanwhile, back at the gala, Lucas is toasting with Heather, but there's a flicker in his eyes, something like regret, maybe, or a crack in the armor he's worn for years. And Heather. She's watching it all, plotting her next move, ready to turn this twisted love story into something even darker. Jane doesn't know it yet, but the storm's just beginning. The city hums with its usual chaos as Jane Dawson steps out of the Met Gala, her emerald gown trailing behind her like a shadow she can't shake. The cool night air bites at her skin, but it's nothing compared to the sting of Lucas Turner's words echoing in her head. Don't make a scene, Jane. You're embarrassing yourself. Those words are a weight pulling her down as she hails a cab on Fifth Avenue, the neon lights blurring through her tears. She spent 7 years trying to turn their cold marriage into something real, but that night at the gala was a mirror she couldn't avoid. Lucas, with his icy demeanor and that laugh he shared with Heather Summers, has made it clear she's fighting a losing battle. Yet, as the cab weaves through midtown traffic, Jane's mind isn't on giving up, it's on redemption. She can't undo what she did to Hannah, but maybe she can prove she's more than the mistake that started it all. Back at Turner Tech's headquarters the next morning, Jane's already at her desk, coffee in hand, drafting a new campaign for Dawson Enterprises. She's thrown herself into work before, but this time it's different. She's channeling her guilt into action. Quietly, she starts feeding Lucas anonymous tips, market trends. She's picked up competitor weaknesses she's uncovered. It's her way of helping Turner Tech thrive, hoping he'll see her worth beyond their contract. Lucas, though, is a fortress. He pores over the tips with his team, oblivious to their source barking orders, in his glass-walled office overlooking the Hudson. He's still riding the high from the gala, where Heather's return stirred something in him, nostalgia maybe, or a flicker of the old flame. But there's a crack in his armor, a restlessness he can't name, especially when he catches himself wondering about Jane's absence. Meanwhile, Heather's back in the game and she's playing dirty. Living in a chic Soho loft she's turned into an art studio she's been plotting since the moment she landed at JFK. Heather blames Jane for Hannah's death, convinced the delay in that transfusion was no accident. She's not here to rekindle old romance with Lucas, though she's not above using it. Heather starts showing up at Turner Tech events. Her paintings suddenly featured at gallery openings. Lucas attends her laughter, filling the room like a siren call. She drops subtle jabs about Jane, painting her as the villain who trapped Lucas. And it's working. The city's elite, always hungry for drama, start whispering again, this time with Heather's spin. Jane hears it at a networking brunch. In the Flatiron district, colleagues murmuring about how poor Lucas is stuck with her. It stings, but Jane doubles down her heels, clicking through Dawson's offices as she pushes harder. Her anonymous tips growing more detailed. Then comes the first blow. One rainy afternoon, Jane's driving back from a client meeting in Queens when a car rams into her sedan on the Long Island Expressway. The crash is brutal, metal screeches, airbags deploy, and Jane's world goes black. When she wakes up in Lenox Hill Hospital, her arm in a sling and her head throbbing, the police tell her it was no accident. The other driver fled, but witnesses say it looked intentional. Jane's gut twists. She knows Heather's behind it, though she can't prove it. Lucas shows up at the hospital, his face a mask of concern that quickly turns to suspicion. "What happened, Jane?" he asks, his voice tight. She mumbles about the crash, but he cuts her off. "This better not be another one of your schemes." The accusation cuts deep, and Jane realizes how far apart they've drifted. She's discharged after a day, but the incident leaves her shaken, her trust in the world, and Lucas shattered. Heather's not done. She escalates, hiring a private investigator to dig into Jane's life, looking for dirt to bury her with. The PI turns up old emails from Jane's college days, harmless flirtations with Lucas, that Heather twists into a narrative of obsession. She leaks them to a tech blog, and suddenly Jane's inbox is flooded with hate mail, her reputation taking a hit. At a Turner Tech board meeting, Lucas is handed the article, his jaw tightening as he reads. He doesn't defend Jane, why would he? But there's a flicker of doubt in his eyes. Jane, meanwhile, retreats to her loft, the city's judgment closing in. She starts faking her death as a desperate escape plan, staging a car accident with the help of a friend at Dawson Enterprises. She leaves a trail, canceled credit cards, a note about starting over, and disappears to a rented cabin upstate, hoping to reset her life. Back in the city, the news hits like a thunderclap. Lucas is at a rooftop bar in Chelsea when a colleague mentions Jane's death, showing him a blurry photo from the supposed crash site. His glass pauses mid-air, a storm brewing in his chest. He's hated Jane for years, blamed her for Hannah's death, but this news feels wrong, too sudden, too clean. He digs into it, calling hospitals, checking records, and finds inconsistencies. The body was never identified. The crash report suspiciously vague. Lucas's mind races. Could Jane have staged this? And why does the thought of losing her twist his gut? He doesn't love her, he tells himself, but the doubt gnaws at him. Heather, sensing an opportunity, leans in closer, inviting Lucas to a private dinner at her loft, where she spins a tale of Jane's evil and offers comfort. Lucas listens, but his thoughts keep drifting to Jane's quiet resilience, those anonymous tips that saved his last deal. The truth starts unraveling at a gallery opening in Tribeca, where Heather's latest exhibit, dark paintings titled Betrayal, draws a crowd. Lucas is there, sipping whiskey, when a former doctor from Mount Sinai approaches him. The man, guilt-ridden after years of silence, confesses Heather bribed him to delay Hannah's transfusion, ensuring Jane's plan would fail. Lucas's world tilts. He storms out, confronting Heather in a back alley, her smug smile fading as he demands answers. Why, he growls. Heather shrugs, her voice cold. Hannah was in my way. You were mine first. The revelation hits Lucas like a punch. He's been blaming the wrong person. Jane didn't kill Hannah. Heather did. The realization fuels a fire in him, a mix of rage and something softer, something he's buried for years. As Lucas processes this, Jane's upstate, staring at the Catskills from her cabin porch. She's cut her hair, dyed it brown, and started a low-key job at a local cafe, trying to piece herself together. She hears about her death on the news, a surreal twist, and wonders if Lucas believes it. She doesn't know he's piecing together the truth, or that Heather's lies are crumbling. The city's gossip shifts, whispers of Heather's deceit start circling, but Jane's too far removed to care. Lucas, back in Manhattan, stands on his penthouse balcony, the skyline a blur as he wrestles with his feelings. He's hated Jane for so long, but now he's not sure what he feels. Anger, guilt, or something dangerously close to care. The city stretches out before him, a maze of lights and secrets. And somewhere in it, Jane's out there alive, waiting for a future she's only beginning to imagine. The Catskills stretch out like a quiet promise. As Jane Dawson sits on the porch of her rented cabin, the morning sun painting the hills in gold. It's been weeks since she faked her death, her brown-dyed hair catching the breeze, her new life as a cafe worker in this sleepy upstate town, a stark contrast to the chaos of Manhattan. She's traded stilettos for sneakers, boardrooms for coffee pots, and the weight of Lucas Turner's disdain for the hum of a simpler existence. The news of her death still feels surreal. Clips on her phone show tearful tributes from Dawson Enterprises colleagues and a blurry crash photo that makes her stomach churn. She wonders if Lucas believes it, if he cares, but she pushes the thought away. Up here, surrounded by pine trees and the distant call of a hawk, Jane's starting to rebuild slowly, painfully, but with a resolve she didn't know she had. Back in New York City, Lucas Turner stands on his penthouse balcony, the skyline a jagged mosaic of lights against the dusk sky. It's 3:15 p.m. on a Sunday, July 13th, 2025, and the city's alive with its usual hum, but Lucas feels detached, like he's watching it all through glass. The revelation from that doctor in Tribeca, Heather Summers, bribing him to delay Hannah's transfusion has turned his world upside down. He spent 7 years hating Jane, blaming her for a death she didn't cause, and now the truth gnaws at him. Heather's confession in that alley, her cold admission that she orchestrated it all to keep him, echoes in his mind. He's cut ties with her, reported her to the police, and watched as investigators hauled her away, her smug smile replaced by a look of defeat. But the victory feels hollow. Lucas's thoughts keep drifting to Jane, those anonymous tips that saved his last deal, her quiet resilience at the gala, the way she never fought back against his cruelty. He doesn't know she's alive, but the doubt that she staged her death has him pacing a man unmoored. The city's gossip has shifted. At rooftop bars in Chelsea and coffee shops in the Village, people whisper about Heather's arrest charges of manslaughter and attempted murder stacking up as evidence mounts. Jane's death is still the talk of the town, with tabloids speculating wildly a tragic end, a runaway heiress, a staged escape. Lucas digs deeper, hiring a private investigator to sift through the crash reports. The PI turns up inconsistencies, no body a witness recanting their story, and Lucas's gut tells him Jane's out there. He starts checking upstate rentals, small-town records, anything to find her. Meanwhile, at Dawson Enterprises, the board is in chaos. With Jane presumed dead, her cousin Mark takes the helm, but his inexperience shows, and the company's stock dips. Lucas, feeling a strange pull, steps in, offering a merger to stabilize Dawson, a move that surprises his own team. He tells himself it's business, but deep down it's about Jane, her legacy, her fight. Upstate Jane's life is taking shape. She's befriended the cafe owner, a gruff but kind woman named Ellen, who teaches her to bake sourdough. The routine early mornings, the scent of coffee, the chatter of locals grounds her. She's started sketching again, a hobby from college, her drawings filling notebooks with scenes of the mountains and memories she's trying to reconcile. One afternoon, a customer mentions a tech mogul asking about new residents, and Jane's heart skips. Could it be Lucas? She shakes it off, focusing on her new identity, now Jenny Hart. But the past creeps in. She thinks of Hannah, the guilt of that delayed transfusion, and Lucas's hatred. She's determined to move forward to prove to herself she's more than her mistakes. The turning point comes when Lucas tracks her down. It's a crisp evening, the cabin's windows glowing warm against the dusk when a black SUV pulls up. Lucas steps out. His suit rumpled, his face etched with exhaustion. Jane freezes her sketchbook, slipping to the floor. "You're alive," he says, his voice rough, almost disbelieving. Jane nods, her throat tight. "I had to get out, Lucas. I couldn't breathe down there." He steps closer, the air between them charged. He tells her about Heather, the confession, the arrest, how he's been wrong all these years. Jane's eyes widen, relief and pain mixing as the weight of her guilt lifts slightly. But she's guarded. "That doesn't change what I did," she says. "I manipulated you, Lucas. I'll carry that." Lucas shakes his head, his voice softening. "You didn't kill Hannah. I blamed you because it was easier than facing my own anger." He pauses, searching her face. "I've been a fool, Jane. I don't know if I can love you, but I want to try to make it right." Jane's torn. Part of her still loves him, that college crush reignited by his vulnerability, but another part knows the damage runs deep. She steps back. "I need time," she says. "I need to figure out who I am without you." Lucas nods, respecting her space, but he leaves a business card, his personal number, on the porch railing. "If you ever want to talk," he says, driving off into the night. Days later, Jane returns to New York, not for Lucas, but for Dawson Enterprises. She reveals herself to the board, her amnesia story, a cover for her absence, and takes back control. With Lucas's merger offer, she restructures the company, bringing in fresh talent and turning it around. Heather's trial dominates headlines, her conviction a public spectacle, and Jane testifies, her voice steady as she recounts the crash. Lucas watches from the courtroom, his presence a silent support, but he doesn't push. Jane moves to a brownstone in Park Slope, a fresh start, and starts mentoring young entrepreneurs, sharing her story to inspire resilience. One rainy afternoon, Lucas shows up at her door, a bouquet of wildflowers in hand. "I've been working on myself," he says. "Therapy, reflection, trying to be the man you deserved." Jane smiles, but her answer is firm. "I'm grateful, Lucas, but I've learned to stand on my own. Maybe we can be friends someday, but I'm done chasing." Lucas nods, accepting her choice, and walks away, a man humbled by loss and growth. Jane closes the door, turning to her sketchbook, her future hers to shape. This journey teaches us something powerful. Jane's story isn't just about love or mistakes. It's about owning what you've done, learning from it, and building a life that's true to you. Her guilt over Hannah drove her to despair, but her choice to walk away to rebuild shows real strength. It's a reminder that forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness, takes courage, and that letting go of toxic ties can set you free. So as Jane sketches her new path, she's not just surviving, she's thriving, a lesson for us all, in accountability and renewal.